Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Algebra 2 webinar. We have a few people in the mix here that are going to be teaching the Algebra 2 next year, and others that would just like more information on it. All of you, thank you for joining us today. Today for this webinar, we'll be well, first of all, my name is Veronica Davalos. For those of you that don't know me, I'm one of the math coaches for the district, and joining us also is Joe.
I'm here, Joe Michelena. Good afternoon, everybody.
So we'll be going through this webinar, kind of informing you on the new math adoption that'll be happening for us next school year. And the purpose of the webinar today is to give you an overview of the curriculum itself, the course, the topics, the lesson structure that comes with this. We did not want to wait until the beginning of the school year and let the entire summer pass us by without giving you the information that goes with this new content. So the idea would be that to give you just an overview of everything in terms of the structure of the course and everything that comes with it. Some of you that are joining us have piloted the curriculum, so you will be much better set to understand it. So if anything comes up and you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat. And Joe will try to keep a track of the chat on there while I'm presenting this over here, but I'll pause in between and see if there are any comments or questions that come up. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we're looking at this curriculum overview called enVision AGA, so enVision Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2. And the content that has been adopted for next year comes with several different components to it. The first one being the print textbooks that you see on this slide. And the second one is this digital platform that's called Pearson Realize, which will be accessible via the student devices, but also through their personal devices, like their cell phones or any type of a iPad or tablet that they may have. It's all part of the adoption. So these are the three textbooks that come with it. Algebra 1, if you notice, is focused mainly on linear and quadratic functions. And then we have geometry, which is now its own traditional course, unlike the way that we've had it for the past few years, where we've had certain sections of geometry throughout the whole Math 1, 2, and 3 sequence that we've had. So we're back to having it all together as one course. And then the one that we're focusing on today is the Algebra 2. Looks very similar to if you've taught pre-calculus in the past or if you've taught advanced algebra in the past. It looks similar to that. If you notice on here, we do have some topics on here with matrices and conics, which is similar to the pre-calc class that we currently offer. So just to clarify, we've had some questions in terms of the names of the courses. So I'm sure that your department chairs have already advised you, but for those of us that are not math teachers in the group on here, these are the new courses that will be offered. It'll be Algebra 1 and Honors Algebra 1, Honors Geometry, Honors Algebra 2. The pre-AP title is going away because that will now be copyrighted by the College Board. So we will no longer be able to use that title on here. So everything will be Honors, labeled Honors. So let's look first at the student components. What is it that each of our students will be getting? And just kind of go in detail into each of those. So first and foremost, each student will be getting a print student edition. There had been some conversations going on in terms of, will the students be getting classroom sets, or will each of them be able to check out a physical textbook? Ultimately, our school board decided that it would be best for each student to be able to check out their physical textbook, which is what will occur next year. Along with that, every student will also get a consumable student companion. And this student companion will be renewed every year. So students will be able to write on it and it'll be theirs for the year. And this goes along with all of the practice problems that are found in the student edition. Third, we have this digital courseware, which we call Pearson Realize, and that's where the students will be able to find all sorts of different resources. The first one being an e-text. Think of it as a PDF type of a text. It's not PDF, but it's similar to it. It's static. So that'll be available to them. They will also have access to an interactive student edition where they'll be able to actually work through some of the activities and examples that are embedded into that interactive student edition. And these, once they're downloaded onto their device, these will be available to them whether they're online or offline. So this equity issue that we have currently of our students being in distance learning and some of them having internet access and some of them not, hopefully this will remediate some of that. Also embedded into the digital courseware is lesson videos from a company called Virtual Nerd. So every one of the lessons comes with short little 4 or 5 minute videos that the students are able to go back and watch to better their understanding of that lesson. And the other one is, the other component would be Math Excel for School. This is where you have extra practice and assessments that come embedded in this courseware. So students would have access to that as well. So those are the student components. Now let's look at the teacher components. What is it that each of our teachers will be getting? So the first one, just like the students, each of our teachers will be getting a print teacher's edition. And these come in 2 volumes so that you have everything in print for you. And you also get a print program overview showing the standards and the whole setup of the 3 courses. Just so you have an overview of the whole program, not just that course. You'll also be getting an assessment resources book, and just like the students, you'll have access to this Pearson Realize digital courseware. And the difference between the student access to the digital courseware and the teacher is you'll be able to get everything that the students see in terms of student editions and all of that. You'll have all of that access, plus you'll have the teacher's edition, the assessments. You'll have instructional tools that are powered by Desmos. So, you know, the Desmos Graphing Calculator website, how you're able to interact with certain activities on that website. Those are already embedded where they should be taught or where they fall better in the lessons in this Pearson Realize platform. The other thing that comes is differentiated practice. That's powered by what I had mentioned earlier, Math Excel for School. There's also PD videos and resources for the teachers that you're able to see at the topic level, at the course level, and at the lesson level to help you with that. And then last but not least, we have the ExamView assessment generator, which we'll talk about towards the end over here as to what that is and how we get all of it. So let's go ahead and look at the course overview. So each course, this includes Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, will come with it. So you're going to have a classroom videos for the program. You're going to have a beginning of your assessment. And then you have the conceptual topics that are covering Common Core state standards throughout the whole lessons. And then every 2 topics, there will be a benchmark test already embedded into the program. And then there's also mid-year and end of course assessments that you'd be able to use, for example, as final exams already embedded in there as well. And there's also what they call next generation practice test, which is assessments that are written for them to practice for the CASP. It could be for the SAT, you know, those big assessments that come towards the end of the school year. And besides those assessments, there's also performance tasks that are available with each of the courses. So looking at the Algebra 2 course topics, these are the topics that come in this Algebra 2. I had briefly mentioned them at the beginning, but it is a big list. And this is, out of the 3 courses, this is the one that has the most that needs to be covered. So we'll be talking in terms of pacing, what that is, and how we're going to approach that towards the end of this. But just to give you a quick overview of the topics here, let's just look at one and see how it's structured. beginning with this. Every topic will have 4 different, they call them math backgrounds, that will help you to kind of plan for what that topic is going to encompass. And so the first one is called focus. And focus is basically the math content, the math standards. What are the students expected to learn in terms of those math standards? That's your focus. What's the focus of this topic? And it gives you not only in words, but it also shows you with examples what that should look like. So that's the first piece for this topic overview. The second one is called coherence. So in coherence, we're looking at 3 different columns. The first column is showing you, looking back, what have the students learned in the past, or what should have they learned in the past in order to be ready for this topic. What will they learn in this topic in order to prepare them for what's coming up ahead? And since we are in Algebra 2, you'll have, when you're looking at the looking ahead column, it does mention courses like calculus and why they would need to know what's in this topic to be able to help them in those courses. But this is the coherence piece. It's looking back during the topic and then looking ahead. So it's tying all of those standards together. The third piece is called rigor. So in rigor, you have the 3 aspects of rigor, which are conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, and applications. So you're given the 3 of them and examples on how they are approached during this topic. Not just the wording that goes behind it, but examples on how they should be approached. So that's the rigor portion. And then you have the math practices and processes, which are, we've seen them as the 8 mathematical practices throughout the past few years. The way that they're structured on here is they structure them by groups and give you examples of how they would look during the teaching of this topic. So if I look at the middle here of the page, it's telling me that the math practice 5 is use appropriate tools strategically. Instead of leaving it at that, they go into specifics and they point out this bullet list of how the topic itself would encompass that math practice. So these would be the 2 math practices that would envelop the whole topic on here. Not to say that the other ones don't show up, they do, but these are the main ones. So those are the 4 pieces to a topic overview. Once you go through the 4 pieces, the next thing that comes is what is included in each of the topics. So each topic comes with its own PD video to kind of help you plan for what should be taught, what should be emphasized, things like that. Each topic also comes with a readiness assessment, which we know will be critical once, we understand that our students are supposed to be learning at home for the past 2 months, but truth of the matter be, they are probably going to have a lot of gaps for next year. Topic opener comes with each of the topics as well, along with a STEM project, which these would lend themselves well for especially those honors courses. And then, of course, the set of content-focused lessons that make up the topic. There's also weekly standards practice worksheets that come in the form of PDFs that practice those standards throughout the weeks. And these would be nice just to have in terms of like little warm-ups to begin the day or such. They're already set up so that they are 1 or 2 questions per day. And then every topic comes with what's called a mathematical modeling in 3 acts task. We've seen those in the past where if we wanted to use a 3 acts task, we'd have to go probably on the, online on the internet, look for something that matched what we were teaching in that module and tried to fit it into what we had. These are already embedded and they tell you exactly where it should be taught in terms of the topic structure. But everything in terms of its, if it has videos, technology, whatever it has, it's already embedded into that Pearson Realize platform. And then Math Excel topic review comes with every topic, and assessments and performance assessments. So again, this is all at the topic level. And also you have this 2-page inside of the print teacher's edition. You'll get these 2 pages on there where you're able to plan all of your your topics. If you look at it, 3.1, it gives you the title of the lesson, but it also in that small little side, it says 2 days. And all of these lessons are 2 days. There's ones like the mathematical modeling acts, those are 1 day, but it makes for good planning, you know, in terms of being clean in terms of the days. Whether they take 2 days or not, we'll find out as we start teaching it. According to the publisher, this is what the pacing should be. So we'll talk pacing towards the end here. But it's just good to have this as a reference because I can just quickly glance at it and see what the vocabulary is, what the objectives, what the essential understandings, and what the standards are. This is especially critical for those of you that do standards-based grading. Those are right here. Starting the topic overview, we had said there's a readiness assessment. So this is an example of how it looks. It's available both print and digitally. If you have the students take it, you know, on the Realize platform, the system will auto score for the entire assessment. It'll auto score and give you kind of an individualized plan on that specific student. But this is how they look. They're not, you know, overly extensive in terms of having 30 items in one test or something. This one is 18. They're usually under 20, and they're broken down by depth of knowledge and by standard. So that's the topic readiness. These are the actual student pages that you'll get in the textbook. So the one that we're looking at here is topic 3, polynomial functions. And if I'm a student, I open up my book to this topic 3, this is what I see. So I see all the lessons in the topic overview. I see the topic vocabulary that'll be presented to me throughout. I see the essential question, but for me, the most valuable piece would be down here, the digital experience. It tells me everything that I would be able to find in terms of supports on the Pearson Realize platform. So this is how topic 3 begins. Let's look at the lesson overview on here. So as we're looking at the lesson pages, you'll see these little icons at the top, these little, you know, different color icons. They're referring you back to the Pearson Realize platform and telling you, by the way, the page that you're covering on right now, you know, you may have an activity, you may have an assessment, something that ties into this page directly onto the Pearson Realize platform. So we'll point those out as we look at the pages here, but I just wanted you to be aware of those. So again, going back to the actual student pages here, this is lesson 1 out of topic 3, so graphing polynomial functions. As I'm looking at it, I'm a student. Okay, what do I see? Is this something that would be approachable to them? And I can see the objective and the vocabulary on the side, along with the essential question, which match what the teacher sees. And here's what we'll call step 1, explore and reason. This is like an introductory activity. We'll talk more about it in a minute. And then we see the examples. Each of the examples is followed by a try it example. So the structure of this lends itself to explicit teaching of the example, and then, okay, kids, now it's your turn to try this problem. And that's how the whole textbook is organized. So these are the first 2 pages of this lesson. Here's the next 2 pages, and as you can see again, it's approachable. It's something that as a student I can kind of follow, you know, a little better than having it, you know, kind of all over the place in terms of some other curriculum that we've had. I can look at this and try to follow as best as I can. So again, example 3 and example 4 on this page. If I click to the next ones, we have example 5, which is an applications page, or applications example, I should say, sorry. And then the lesson ends with what's called a concept summary. So the concept summary will usually be set up into different little rows. In this case, it'll be words, key features, and graphs, because we're talking about graphing polynomials. So these are the 3 main things, 3 main ideas that I should have gotten out of this lesson. So the lesson will always end that way, with a concept summary and with what's called a formative assessment type of questions. So do you understand and do you know how? And these here would lend themselves to like exit tickets or things like that. And again, this is for every lesson you'll have these. And then moving on past the lesson, you have what we would normally call the student homework pages. So on the homework pages, they will always be set up into 4 columns: understand, practice, apply, and assessment practice. And if that's not enough in terms of practice for the students, if you look up at the top, you have your icons that I was referring to at the beginning. So these tell me that there's extra practice and there's a tutorial available for them on the Pearson Realize. And then there's this other icon over here that says scan for multimedia. So I'll explain what that is in a minute, but it's another type of a support. But as a student, I can look up here and say, oh, okay, I should go to the Realize platform and see what's there if I'm not understanding some of these examples. The other thing that you'll notice as you're looking at the page also is it refers them back to the example that was taught in the lesson. So if I'm looking at number 21, it tells me here, see example 2, so that I'm able to follow what to do in example 21 here. So these are the student pages. Now going into the teacher portion of it, how does it look when I open up my teacher edition? How does this lesson look? So every lesson will begin with a lesson overview. And on that lesson overview, you're going to have the focus, coherence, and rigor that we had talked about at the beginning of the topic when the topic is introduced. But now you're seeing it at the level of the lesson. How are these 3 ideas going to be covered in this lesson? And then you also have the content standards for as I said, for those of you that are going to be grading standards based. We have the key vocabulary, and if you notice, it's both in Spanish and English, and there's always going to be some sort of an activity that goes with that vocabulary, and the math practices that go with this lesson. So that's the first page. The second page that we'll get to starts with this, what's called a 4-step lesson structure that this textbook uses. And it's set up like this. We begin with an explore. Step 2 would be understand and apply. Step 3 is practice and problem solve. And then step 4 is assess and differentiate. So let's look at step 1 first. Step 1 is that problem-based learning activity. And it'll always come in one of these 3 forms. It'll either be model and discuss, or it'll be critique and explain, or explore and reason. So the one that we're using as an example here is an explore and reason. And the way that this is set up is it's supposed to be an introductory type of an activity to whatever the lesson is going to cover. And as a teacher, I'm looking at this page and I see these icons that are ETP. Those stand for Effective Teaching Practices, otherwise also known as CSTPs. But they guide how I should be introducing this to the class. It also gives you ideas on how to do it before the task, during the task, and then after. Again, just ideas on how to guide this explore portion. There are questions at the bottom that are called habits of mind. And this allows you to push those students a little further in their mathematical thinking and to build on whatever it is that topic is covering. And the other nice thing about a page like this on the teacher's edition is that you're able to see the digital experience and the print experience that the students would be covering. So whether you're a teacher that just has the students have their textbook in front of them, or whether all of the students have their devices in front of them, you're able to see both on this one page. And to guide the teaching of this explore portion, there are examples, sample student work that you're able to use during the teachings of this. Well, ultimately, we as teachers have something in mind as to what we want the final outcome of this introductory activity to be. This sample student work lends itself to helping with that. So let me pause right there in step 1 and see if there's any questions from the group. I haven't been able to see the chat right now, but just let me know if there's any questions.
Veronica, I've been able to answer most of the questions, I think. Some people may have some clarifying questions, and I was just typing up your answer, Shelley Taylor. We may have a few copies of the Student Companion in our office little library that we have. but maybe Chad or Sally or Crystal, if you guys have any extra copies, you could let us know. And if somebody would really want those, we can get them to you. We would probably only have enough, like one person, one each.
This is Randy Smith. I have several in my classroom.
And Randy's here too. Awesome. Thanks, Randy.
All right, thank you for that. So let me go ahead and keep going then on here. So as we said, every lesson starts with the step 1 explore. Step 2 is where the majority of our teaching is going to occur. This is the guided instruction where the mathematics is taught explicitly. You have those visual examples that we follow through, the triads after each example. And then you finish the lesson with a concept summary and the formative assessments of do you understand and do you know how? So again, the bulk of the teaching is right in here. So if we look at the first page of this step 2, we're looking at the essential question. We're looking at we're looking at the probing questions that come with each of these examples. So those come with every one of those examples in the lesson. Kind of help us to lead the students where we want them to ultimately go. And the example that comes in the student's textbook is up at the top. But if that's not enough, sometimes, we find that one example like that is not enough for the majority of our classes. There's additional examples that are available online, but they're also given to you in print form on the teacher's edition. So you don't have to go and get your device and see what the problems are or anything like that. They're already printed for you on that same page, those additional examples. And then the next portion on here is, as I'm looking at this page, I see example 2 and example 3 from the students' editions. And again, those ETPs are labeled for each one of those and followed by those triad examples that come with each of them. And scattered throughout, you're going to see the common errors to point out, those habits of mind. And there's also differentiated instruction. On this page, we have that for the advanced students, if we want to push them a little further. This is an idea of how to do that. On the following pages, you also have those scaffolds down at the bottom in purple. Those are for struggling students and for English language learners. And for those English language learners, it's set up into writing, speaking, and reading scaffolds. So those are always useful to have. And again, this is for every lesson, you'll be getting some examples like that. On this last portion here, you have the concept summaries that we were referring to. So those are going to be organized by some type of word, diagram, symbols, so that you're better able to as a student, you're better able to kind of get those thoughts and processes organized for that lesson. The common error shout outs that I had talked about earlier, those are embedded throughout. And then the do you understand and do you know how, that's offered, at the end of each lesson as those formative assessments. Sorry, let me go back one. And the other thing is we also have all of these answers on here. Towards the end, I'll show you, but along with the answers that come embedded in the teacher's edition, we'll also have access to the worked out solutions, not just the answers, but the solutions. We know sometimes we need some of those to kind of help in showing some examples to the students. So that was step 2. Step 3 is where we say, all right, guys, we've done the lesson. Now it's your turn to do your independent practice. So those are the 4 columns at the end of the lesson that I was showing you that were split up into understand, practice, apply, and assessment. This is where the students would be able to do all of their work. And on there also you would have everything that's on those pages would also be available on the Math Excel online, where it's auto-scored. You have the learning aids, you have everything already built into that platform. So looking at those 4 columns, let's look at these first 2 on here. This is the understand column, the practice column. On the side for the teachers, it's telling me if you don't want to assign directly from this page, you do have the option to assign that adaptive practice online. And it would be problems just like this. Or if you assign from here, here's an item analysis. It shows you the examples that were given in the lesson, that were taught in the lesson, how they correlate to the items that you see in this practice set. and it also shows you the depth of knowledge of each one of those. The additional practice, it tells you, remember those icons that we talked about, it tells you, remember, by the way, there's extra practice, there's extra tutorials that are available for you for this page. Going on into the next page, then the next one, as I said, you have all the corresponding answers that go for this practice, and then the assessment that goes with that as well. That's the end of step 3. Step 4, assess and differentiate. Every lesson will end with a lesson quiz, and this lesson quiz will be available in print if that's your preferred method of giving them, or also online. And again, just like everything else online, it would be auto-scored, and it would be assigning intervention and enrichment automatically depending on the score. So if we go back and look at the sample lesson that we're looking at, here's the lesson quiz in print, so 5 questions. And then up at the top, you see the first question that pops up when students go online and take it. Once they answer that, then they go on to the next one. But the differentiation that's available to them goes like this. So there's 5 items on this lesson. It shows you the depth of knowledge and the standards for each one of them. Depending on how the students score, that's the intervention that they would get. So if they scored between 0 and 3 points, then that means that they are needing intervention. And there are these 3 additional activities available for them to do for that intervention. If they're on level, they scored 4 points on this quiz, but there are still extra activities that you could assign them if you chose to. And then for those advanced students that score 5 out of 5, there's also extra work that you can give them if that's what you decided. So as I said, lesson quiz, whatever your preferred method is of giving it, it's in print and online. So looking a little closer at those differentiated structures, resources, those are available for every lesson on here, as I said. The Reteach to Build Understanding is used more as an intervention tool. But again, any of these you can assign to any students that you want. The additional practice is also available there, and the enrichment and the math vocabulary. Those are the 4 options that you would have. And along with that, if that's not enough and you're looking for a little bit extra to give them during this lesson, there's video tutorials that follow each of them. And there's an app that they can download onto their phone that's called Bounce Pages. And what that does is wherever they see that icon in their textbook, they would be able to take a picture, scan it with their phone using this app, and the app will take them directly to the video, the tutorial video that goes with that lesson. So again, just different scaffolds for these students. So going through the differentiation cycle here again, on our topic, every topic starts with a readiness assessment. As you move, we teach the lesson, the students do the independent practice, then they take the lesson quiz, and if all goes well, we repeat that cycle over and over again, and we end up with a summative assessment at the end. But we know that towards there, you're going to have a mixture in every single one of our classes, whether they're CP or honors. We know that we have these 3 levels of students mixed into those classes. And that's just the reality of what we have. So we should be able to have a response to intervention at each one of these levels if we needed that. And that's what these are there to do. They're there to help us with this response to intervention. So the 3 levels would be given intervention on level and advanced, depending on what you decide. You as a teacher would be able to assign these. If you wanted to, and the students take everything online, the system would assign them this extra work as well. That would be automatic. So again, let me pause there, see if there's any other questions.
There have been a few questions come up, and thank goodness we have so many pilots here. I didn't know. So I don't know if you guys know now with Microsoft Teams, there's the raise your hand idea. If one of you guys would like to comment on something or have a question, you could click that. It's on your taskbar. Is there somebody who right now, you don't need to raise your hand. It might be a good time. Someone from the pilot, you want to clarify anything that's been talked about? Not hearing anybody and not seeing a hand raised. I guess, Veronica, it's back to you.
Okay.
Oh, wait. Hand just raised. Crystal, you got it. Floor is yours.
I just wanted to mention that the intervention thing you have on the screen here, if people choose to do the lesson quiz online, you have an option to automatically have it distribute and assign students based on what they got on the quiz, these kinds of things. So if they didn't do well on the lesson quiz, it will assign automatically the videos and additional practice, but you won't be able to see it unless you assign it through your teacher version.
Very good information. Thank you, Crystal.
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. And then we just got a question in. If I happen to not assign work, can students still access the videos, examples, and assignments on their own? And Sally just answered it. She said, yes, they can.
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Sally.
All right, so let's go ahead and go and talk about assessments and data now. So as we've mentioned, every lesson comes with a quiz, but the program also comes with diagnostic, formative, summative assessments throughout. They could be at the course level, at the topic level. They're all available print or digital formats. And if again, to reemphasize, if you go the digital course, these would be auto-scored for you on the platform. Once the system scores those quizzes, like Crystal was mentioning, then the reports would be auto-generated. They would get differentiation if the system assigned it to them automatically or not, if you put that as an option. The other thing that the system generates is reports for the teacher so that they're able to see the mastery of the standards of the math, the progress that the students are making in the class, and the usage if they're going online. How much time are they spending on the Realize platform, and how much time are they spending actually doing something on the Realize platform? There's a difference between those. So let me show you that. So once you go on here, this is a screenshot of what a teacher would see out of a class here. So the top one is the scores, the average scores on completed assessments. And if this was not a static screenshot, but I was actually on the website, I would be able to click on the bar graphs here and click on each one of them, and it would take me to whatever that assessment was and give me all the information, the student scores, everything that goes with that assessment. I would be able to see here once clicking on that. The middle one here is the progress, so the class completion of the assignments. Right now it says 46% average, so they're less than half completed with whatever the teacher has decided to assign as a class. That's their average completion rate. But if I wanted to know specifics per assignment, I would click on here and it would give me to those specific assignments and see the completion rate for them. And then on the bottom, I have the usage. So this would be the average time that the students spend not only doing the assignments and the assessments, but it also shows me time that they have logged in, but the system has not logged any activity for them. So the inactivity that's on there as well. So all of that is available throughout the Pearson Realize platform. Once you do click on one of those bar graphs, it'll take you to a screen like this. So the one that I clicked on is a lesson quiz. And when you click on it, you'll be able to see the list of students, the score that they got on that specific assignments, each of the questions. If I were to click on it, I would see the question and the answer, the response that the student gave on there. I'm able to look at this data, whether it be by standards, by question, by student, or by performance. Maybe I have a cutoff score of 70% or something. I would be able to look at the data that way. Again, I'm not able to click on this right now because it's just an image, but that's what's available to you. There have been questions throughout the past couple of days of whether These scores automatically go into our Power Teacher gradebook, similar to the Schoology scores that go in. As this stands right now, that's not a capability. So whatever is stored in this system does not automatically talk to the Power Teacher gradebook. One thing that we'll be able to do is our pilot teachers had their classes inputted for them back in February. Those of you that have chosen to use this during this school closure time, you'd have to go in there and manually input all of the student information. The good thing is, once we actually do own the system come the next school year, this will be done automatically. So whether students drop or they enter the class, whatever, the system will automatically put them into the Realize platform. Okay, and then talking answers and solutions, then I had told you at the beginning that our Teachers Edition comes with all of the answers, but there's also going to be think of it as an app for your device where you're going to have all of the solutions on there. So it won't be a big, huge print manual with the solutions, but you'll have it on your device. So if you go to the Pearson Realize platform, this is how it'll load up. And if I go to the browse section of it, this is a screenshot from it. We'll have some time at the end for those of you that haven't been on it to see how this goes. But if I click on tools here, I get this list of tools. The first ones, mostly calculators, those are available to students and teachers. So those are the Desmos, graphing calculators, the scientific calculators. You have all sorts of geometry tools that are accessible through here as well. And then the bottom portion here are the answers and solutions and the ExamView test generator. These have to be installed by our techs onto our devices. So if I were to click on them here through their website, it would tell me that I needed to install them. And since we're not given any rights on our devices to do that, then one of our techs would have to go in and install these on there. Okay, but you'll have an ExamView for each of the 3 courses, not just Algebra 2. You'll have Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and then you'll have the answers and solutions for that as well. So I want to show you a little screenshot of that answers and solutions, how it shows up. So it'll be similar to the way that you have CUDA software right now, where CUDA was installed on yours. You click on it, this screen comes up. It'll be like this. So once it's on your device and it's there, you don't have to be online to use it or anything like that. But I'm looking at the list of topics, and then I'm looking at the lessons, the specific lessons. So if I go to, if I were to scroll down and click on the one that we were looking at right now, lesson 3, topic 3, lesson 1, I should say, sorry. This is the example of the solution to number 32 in the practice and problem solve for the students. I see it step by step. I would be able to filter this out. If I wanted to show this to the class, if I wanted to share this down as a PDF, maybe the even, the odds, whatever the case might be, I'd be able to do that. But I could filter that out over here by solutions, step-by-step solutions, or just by answers. And I could do evens or odds or specific numbers. And I could print it or just download it as a PDF and maybe put it into Schoology or something like that if you wanted to share it with the students. Or you could also present it to the classes. So by clicking that button, excuse me. I'm sorry, I had to cough there. By clicking on this button, it'll change your screen so that you're in presenter mode, and it'll show the solutions there to the class. So again, this is going to be available for all 3 of the courses. So far, these are all of our resources that we're going to be having at the topic level and at the lesson level. Lots to look at. I know it's a lot of information that we've given you right now. We wanted to give you an overview. As I said, our pilot teachers are experts at this by now, probably, right? But there's some of you that have not seen it, some of you that have, so we just wanted to give you a full overview. Did not want to wait for summer to be here and then wait a couple of months for you to actually get the training from the publisher. So if you don't have a teacher account, we'll give you one in a minute so that you're able to log in. You're able to log in and kind of see the Realize platform on your own. We'll be having access to the demo accounts, the pilot accounts, until the end of June. We don't have a date yet where we'll have the actual bot teacher accounts that will be in place for the next few years. Once we do have a date, we'll let your department chairs know and everything. But right now, we have until the end of June to be able to use these demo accounts. As you log in into that Pearson Realize website, another thing that we wanted to point out is Pearson will be rebranding into Savvas Realize. So throughout the next couple of months, you'll start to see little things change from Pearson to Savvas. Okay, so just a little FYI there for you. And then let's talk pacing. So Algebra 2 is packed, to say the least. It's way more than 180 days on here. So there's more than enough for an honors course here. And there's way too much for a regular CP Algebra 2 course. So the plan that we have is to meet next week to whoever wants to volunteer. If you have some ideas or anything on how the class what the class should cover, any topics that you would like to be emphasized or taken out, or whatever opinions you have for the class, we'd love to hear that and have you work with the rest of the Algebra 2 teachers that want to do that. But as you can see, there's a lot of days. This is just the publisher's suggested pacing, and just by their pacing, it's past the 180 days. So this is the day that we'll be meeting. So it'll be a week from today, 9 to 10. So if you would like to participate, just let us know, let Joe or myself know. Send us an email or just put it in the chat. And if the days go by and you decide that you do want to participate or not, just even the day before, just let us know. But we'd love to have your opinion on what should be included, especially on an Algebra 2 course, because the Algebra 2, you start to get into really concentrated groups of students, those that are going to go on to pre-cal, to calculus, those that are just wanting to get their math credits in. We have a little bit of everything in there, and your opinion really will help this be a lot smoother and more successful.
Veronica, can you go back to the pacing page
Yes.
real quick? We had a request that you. And then while you're doing that, Sally has her hand up. I want to answer a quick question. Loretta had said, these days are considered, right? That's 1 45-minute day, which would translate then, right? 2 of those makes a 90-minute block.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Sally had her hand up first. Sally, go ahead.
Well, one of the concerns that we have at Enox, and I'm sure other sites have the same concern, is the pacing guides that we create next week. Will they be the pacing that we'll be using for all years, or will there be a separate pacing guide created for the next couple of years that will incorporate any remediation or additional teaching that we have to do due to this school closure?
My own opinion is, I think it's brand new curriculum. Nobody in our district has taught a full year of it. We need to have this as open as possible so that we're able to make changes, even as the year goes by, but make changes as we go, because we're not sure. We might have this whole plan in place of like, oh, we're just going to cover these topics in this time frame, and it might be completely off. We don't know. So I think we need to have that leeway in there to be able to make changes for this year, during the year, and then after also. But again, I think that'll come up once we meet with the pacing group. That has to be discussed on there. Yes.
Thank you.
Crystal has her. Thank you, Sally. Crystal also has her hand up. So, Crystal.
I just wanted to make a comment about, because I know a lot of you guys are looking at this pacing guide and wanting to capture it, but the actual pacing guide overview that the we're going to get in print is already on the Pearson Realize website. So if you want to look at the pacing guide itself, when you click on the textbook you're choosing, before you click any topic, on the right-hand side is this thing, a tab that's called Teacher Resources. And if you look, there's one called Teacher Overview, and it has the pacing guide in normal day, traditional, and block scheduling for you guys.
Thank you, Crystal. Yes, that Pearson Realize platform has all sorts of things that, even though we haven't paid the publisher or anything yet, we're able to access through that, whether we have it in print or not. But that's very good to have. So I'll show you that once we go on the website. Thank you, Crystal.
Okay, you're ready, Veronica. Move on.
Ready? Okay.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
Joe, if you will do me a favor and put the attendance link on the chat, that way we don't forget towards the end. That way you get your attendance recorded for today. Let me leave that up there for a minute before I have you go on to the Realize platform here. Those of you that have piloted, you already have your accounts. If you're a math teacher, you've been given an account already to kind of test out. Those of you that don't have one, I'll show you what the training account is in a minute here. Am I able to move on from this slide?
Yes, it's there.
Okay. So for those of you that are not math teachers and need a teacher training account, you're able to use this username and this password to go on the Realize account. And as we said, these will be available until the end of June. So you're able to look on there and see what's available for you. And we'll do that in a minute. So I'll give you a minute to log in on there if you want. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this one. And while you're logging in on Realize on your side, let me go ahead and share my screen over here and kind of point out the basics of the setup on here. So when you log in, your screen will show up like this. It's very similar to the student screen when they log in. They'll have 3 different columns on there, the same idea as what you have here. Your textbooks will be on the green portion over here, your actual curriculum. In the middle will be your classes, and then assessments and data for assignments will be on the right over here. So if I go to, and those are accessible on top as well, but if I go to the browse section, I'm going to have a few more books than you have on there, but you should have an Algebra 1, an Algebra 2, and a Geometry book in there. So I'm going to click on the Algebra 2. And on the Algebra 2 here, this is where Crystal was pointing out that you would be able to access that course overview. So as I'm looking at this, I have Teacher's Edition, Interactive Student Edition, Classroom Videos, the assessments, the topics, everything is laid out for me right in this page. But over on the right-hand side, I have this Teacher Resources. And this is the Teacher's Edition program overview. So if I click on this one, it takes me to a PDF file. And then once you download it, open that up. If you start going through this, now it's 128 pages, so I won't go through the whole thing, but once you start going through it, you'll be able to see that everything is on here in terms of planning for the course. There should also be in here standards. There should be a section here just for standards. I just can't see it right now. It's in there, but let me find the page that Crystal was referring to. These are all the topics laid out, so that way you don't have to have the actual textbook. You can go directly through here and see all the topics, but this is your pacing. So I have my first topic here, my lessons, my standards, my traditional days, and my block days all set up throughout like this. So again, another resource to have as you're moving on and planning for this class. Okay. Let me go back then to the Realize website and show you some of the other things that are available for you there. So that was on the site on teacher resources. The data that I was showing you earlier for assessments will be up in this tab, and all of the lessons themselves would be here. So let's go to the topic that we were using as an example, which was polynomial functions. So if I click on that, I still have my teacher and student editions up at the top, and another set of PD videos. These are different than the ones that were on the first page. You have the readiness assessment just for this topic, and then the rest of the lessons that go here. So the lesson that we looked at was 3.1. So if I click on that, it takes me to, again, teacher and student editions. And then I have my step 1, the Explorer. Step 2, all of the guided instruction is here. My examples, along with the try it examples, the concept summary, and then those formative questions at the end. And then step 3, the practice and problem solve examples are here. Now these are the additional problems besides what's available in your textbook. You have a set of what's called Math Excel, which we have mentioned earlier. These are extra problems besides the ones in the textbook, but they go hand in hand. You would be able to assign these, or you also have a second set of those. And there's a third portion called adaptive practice, powered by Newton, which is supposed to adapt depending on how the students answer the first question. It'll adapt to the second question, and so on. There's been some glitches with this throughout the pilot process, so hopefully that's fixed once we get the adoption going for next year. And then the fourth step on here, the assess and differentiate, we have the lesson quiz, and then all of those different differentiation activities and PDFs that are available for you. Those that are in blue are activities that the students do on their device. Those that are in purple are your PDFs that you as a teacher would either be able to print, or the students could download onto their device, put those in their OneNote, and work on them directly on OneNote. So these are the purple icons here, but they go hand in hand. It's the same thing, just in a different format. And then those extra videos that go with the lesson. Okay, so this is at the lesson portion. If I go to teacher resources, now this will look different than it did at the beginning. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Veronica, Randy has a hand up. I don't know if it's something right now. So Randy.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I like the Math Excel because it gives the same problem with different numbers to each student. So they could help each other, but they couldn't just get answers from each other. So that made it nice. And also it gives them feedback, like Sally was mentioning in the chat.
Yes,
and
that's
then now
right.
Thank you, Randy. Now might be a good time too. Sarah has a question here about where you find the student videos.
These student videos down here. If I just click on them, they're already embedded on there. But there's also an app that they can download onto their phone called Virtual Nerd. And all they have to do is search for the enVision Algebra 2 textbook on there, and it loads all of the videos for them by that. And they're not overwhelming videos. That's like, this is a 6-minute video, but it plays directly on their device here. So these down here would be the student videos. Now, if they're doing Math Excel, for example, some of the options when they get stuck in a problem, there's some scaffolding for them to help them. One of the options on there is usually watch a video. It could be a virtual nerd video, it could be some other type of a video, but those Math Excel assignments have those embedded into the problems also.
Okay, that's it. That's all they have here. Yep.
Okay. teacher resources on the right, as I was saying, you're able to get the lesson plans from here also. These are nice just for planning, especially those years when we have those observations going on. These are nice to plan and have everything set up for us already. If that's what we want to use, that's on there as a PDF, and it's also something that you can edit. If I go back to the topic level, those teacher resources again change, and now you have, it says CC Standards Practice. So this first one here is week 7. So if I click on that, those are the problems that I was telling you would be nice to use as like little warm-ups or things like that to get the class started while we take attendance or things like that. But these are set up in a way that you're able to either print them out or just put them up on the screen and have the students work from that, or you can push them out onto OneNote, whatever you would decide to do with those. And so then going on up over here to the data that I was showing you. So you'll have your classes listed on here. There's only one sample class listed here. You would have your 5 classes listed. So if I click on this one, this is the page that I showed you in the presentation where you had the scores, the class progress, and the class usage. So if I hover over the bar graph here, it tells me what assignments they were. So if I click on this one here, this is the lesson quiz, and I'm looking at the data right now by standards. So this is my first standard, and this is my second standard that was tested on there. And again, this is a pilot sample class, so there's not a score for every student. But if I look at this one, I see that they got 2 out of 4 on that standard, 2 questions out of 4, and then 6 out of 8. If it's red, they did not meet the standard. They're not proficient. 6 out of 8, then they are proficient. So just different ways of looking at the data. I can look at it by question and look at that specific question and see what it was, see how this student answered that question. They got it correct, and I can move on and look at another question or another student, sorry, for the same question, or just move on to different questions on here. Again, another way of looking at the data. And then by student and the performance, I had a breakpoint of 70%. It'll break it down into 2 different columns. Again, it would be very nice if all of this would automatically just import into our Power Teacher Gradebook. As we have been told, that's not yet a possibility. Hopefully soon it will be. There's supposed to be an update coming over the summer where the platform will allow teachers to collaborate. So maybe there's a quiz that you created and you want to share with the other Algebra 2 teachers. You would be able to do that right in the Realize platform without having to go into another one like Schoology. We were told that would be coming over the summer. Let's hope that it does. Now with all these furloughs and everything that the company has had, we'll have to wait and see. And same thing with this. Hopefully there's something that they come up with where Power Teacher and Realize are somehow connected, because they do have a lot of connections with like Schoology and other platforms that we have. So let me pause there and see if there's any other questions, and also honor your time because it is 2 o'clock, a little past 2.
Yeah, I think now, Veronica, would be a good time to we can have them go, and then if anybody still has questions or comments, then they can hang out with us for a little bit. Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today. Hopefully we answered some of your questions on here. I know that the majority of your worries right now are in pacing and how to plan for next year and all of that. So if you are wanting to and willing to come to that meeting next week, we'd love to have your opinion on that. Otherwise, then please feel free to reach out to us with any other concerns that you may have. Thank you guys very much. Thanks for the pilot crew who was here to help us along the way. Appreciate it. Thank you guys. And Chad, you're right. You can add your own resources. It's just not wise to do that yet because these aren't our long-term accounts. Hopefully we'll get those before too long, but it'll be June before that for sure. Nicole's asking, are you you're still on your screen, Veronica. Nicole's asking if she wants to go next week, does she need to send us an email? So since we know, We know
Yeah.
right now, though. I have it
Yeah.
written down.
That's fine. We'll have her we'll take this as her Nicole will take this as your volunteer statement here. Thank you.
I also put in the chat if anybody. I know Nicole wanted a student companion. Daniel did. Westcott, and so did Shelley Taylor. Is there anybody else? Oh, look at that. Shelley's getting one from Davis already. That would be much easier on me since I'm not heading into the office. I'm working from home. And Nicole, thank you. Daniel, are you still on with us? Crystal seemed to be the one who had the most copies. So if she's at Davis, if you could email Crystal. Crystal left already. So I'm volunteering without her here.